At 3:17 in the morning, millionaire Leo Vance stood in his daughter's empty doorway, his world tilting on its axis. The nanny's room was empty, her bed still made. He followed her into the cold night, expecting a lie. What he found was her maid's uniform under a diner apron and a medical bill for his little girl that insurance refused to pay. Her name was Sophia, and for 2 years she had been the steady, quiet presence in his daughter Chloe's life. Leo paid her well, he thought, but no salary could cover treatment priced at over $300,000, a treatment the insurance company stamped experimental and abandoned. This is the story of the bill he never saw, the sacrifice he never asked for, and the night he discovered that the real cost of his daughter's life was being paid by someone else. It began with a tremor in Chloe's left hand during her 5th birthday party. Within weeks, the diagnosis arrived: a rare pediatric neurodegenerative condition with only one potential path forward, an immunotherapy protocol so new the medical journals were still debating its name. Leo Vance had built his fortune on predictable outcomes. His venture firm, Apex Partners, thrived on calculated risks with clear data, but this was different. The lead neurologist laid out the brutal math. The treatment had shown promise in early trials, halting progression in 60% of cases. The cost, $327,000, not covered. The insurance denial letter arrived 2 days later. 7 pages of dense legalese that boiled down to 2 words: investigational, excluded. Leo's legal team appealed, citing the trial's Phase 3 results. The insurance company's final response was a single paragraph, reiterating the policy's exclusion for treatments not yet approved by the FDA. The clock was ticking. Every month without treatment meant irreversible neural damage. Sophia had been with them since Chloe was 3. A former nursing student who had to leave school when her own mother fell ill, she was more than an employee. She was the calm during hospital stays, the one who could make Chloe laugh through IV insertions. When the denial became final, Leo saw the despair in his wife's eyes before she left for a conference she couldn't miss. He told Sophia they would find a way, that he was liquidating assets. He believed it. But assets take time to move. The treatment center required a 50% deposit to secure Chloe's place in the next cycle, $163,500, due in 14 days. Leo didn't know that Sophia had overheard the panicked call with his accountant. He didn't see her researching the diner on 8th Avenue that paid cash for overnight shifts. He simply noticed she seemed more tired, attributing it to the stress they were all under. The truth was, Sophia was working 19 hours a day. From 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., she was Ms. Sophia, managing Chloe's therapy exercises and medications. By 11 p.m., she was Sophia, table 4, serving pancakes and coffee until 7 in the morning, catching 90-minute naps in her car between shifts. She kept the 2 worlds meticulously separate. Her maid's uniform, a light blue dress, stayed on under the diner's yellow apron. The medical bills and payment confirmations were stored in a separate, password-protected folder on her phone labeled C for Chloe. The first payment, $22,000 from 6 weeks of double shifts, was processed exactly on the due date. The treatment center sent a confirmation to the email on file, Leo's email. He saw it, assumed his accountant had worked a miracle, and breathed a sigh of relief that clouded his perception for the next 2 months. Meanwhile, Sophia's body began to break. The constant standing aggravated an old back injury. She developed a tremor in her own hand from the constant lifting of heavy trays. She hid it well, until the night she didn't. It was 3:07 a.m. when Leo woke to the sound of Chloe's monitor alerting a low-grade fever. He went to get Sophia, knowing she'd want to check the dosing chart. Her room was empty, bed neatly made. A cold dread settled in his stomach. His mind, conditioned by boardroom betrayals, jumped to the worst conclusion: theft, abduction, a secret life. He pulled on a coat over his pajamas and drove the streets aimlessly until he saw the glow of the open 24 hours sign 4 miles from his home. And there she was, through the grease-smeared window. Sophia, balancing 3 plates along her forearm, her face a mask of exhausted concentration. The light blue collar of her maid's uniform was visible at the neckline of her apron. Leo parked and watched for 20 minutes. He saw the manager, a man with a permanent sneer, snap his fingers at her. He saw her nod, wipe a table, and rush back to the kitchen, her movements stiff with pain. He saw her, during a rare still moment, pull her phone from her apron pocket, stare at it with a look of profound sorrow, then tuck it away and force a smile for a customer. He walked in, the bell above the door jingled. Sophia looked up, and the color drained from her face. The plate in her hand wobbled. For a long second, the entire diner seemed to hold its breath. "Mr. Vance," she whispered. He didn't shout. He just walked to the counter, took the stool nearest her and said, "Sit down, Sophia, please." The manager started over. "Hey, she's on the clock, you can't just..." Leo didn't turn. He simply held up a hand, a gesture of such quiet, absolute authority that the man stopped mid-stride. "She's taking a break," Leo said, his voice low and final. He looked back at Sophia. "Now." She slid onto the stool opposite him, her shoulders hunched. He saw it all then, the deep bruises under her eyes, the raw, cracked skin on her knuckles from industrial cleaners, the way her hands wouldn't stop their fine, constant shake. "How much?" Leo asked quietly. "I don't know what you mean." "The treatment, Sophia, the payments. How much have you paid?" Her composure shattered. A single tear traced through the dusting of flour on her cheek. She pulled her phone out, opened the folder, and slid it across the formica. Leo scrolled, transfer after transfer, from an account he didn't recognize to the treatment center's bank. 22,000, another 18,500, 31,000, the numbers blurred. $112,000, he read aloud, the figure lodging in his throat like a stone. "The next cycle is in 9 days, Sophia said, her voice hollow. "The final deposit is 51,000. I'm almost there." Leo stared at this woman who had sold her car, emptied her meager savings, and traded sleep for his daughter's chance. The millionaire who had built an empire on seeing every angle had missed the one happening in his own home. Why was all he could manage? Sophia looked at him, and for the first time he saw not an employee, but a force of nature. "Because she calls me so-so, because she deserves a life, because no one else was going to do it." In that moment, Leo Vance's understanding of the world fractured. But before he could speak, Sophia's phone, still in his hand, buzzed with a new email notification. The preview line was visible. It was from the treatment center. The subject line, "Urgent, protocol suspension." Sophia saw his face change. She grabbed the phone, read the message, and a sound escaped her, a gasp of pure despair. Leo took the phone back and read the full text. "Due to unforeseen regulatory review," it stated, "the current iteration of the immunotherapy protocol is suspended indefinitely. All patient cycles are halted. Further deposits are frozen." Sophia's entire body began to tremble. The $51,000 she was about to wire wasn't just late. It was now pointless. The treatment she had broken herself to buy had vanished. Leo looked from the screen to Sophia's devastated face, then out the diner window at the dark, empty street. The foundation of their desperate plan had just collapsed, and he knew, with a chilling certainty, that the real battle was only beginning. But he also knew one thing with absolute clarity. He was not leaving this diner without her, and he was not accepting this verdict. He stood up, placed a hand on Sophia's shuddering shoulder, and said the words that would change everything. "We're not done, we're just starting over. Get your coat." Back in the sterile quiet of his home office, Leo Vance stopped being a father and became a forensic accountant. He had Sophia pull up every statement, every transfer. The numbers told a story of quiet ruin. Her life savings, meant for a master's degree she had deferred, $28,000 gone, the small inheritance from her mother, $15,000, then the brutal math of exhaustion, $16 an hour at the diner minus taxes, tips pooled and split unfairly by the manager. She had been clearing less than $900 a week, working 133 hours to do it. All of it funneled to the Clearview Immunotherapy Institute. "You sold your car," Leo said, looking at a line item for a $5,000 deposit from Autosale Pro. "The bus goes near the diner," Sophia replied, her voice flat with defeat. She was perched on the edge of a chair, still in the dingy yellow apron over her uniform, as if too tired to remove it. Leo called the institute. He was put on hold, transferred, then disconnected. He called again using his company's name and got a harried-sounding administrator. The story was bureaucratic and cold. The FDA had requested additional data on manufacturing protocols. No safety issues, just paperwork. The pause was indefinite. All patient funds were in escrow, but no treatments were scheduled. There was no timeline. "So we wait," Sophia whispered, but her eyes were on the baby monitor screen where Chloe slept fitfully. Waiting was a luxury her little body might not have. Leo knew then that appealing to the system that had failed them was futile. He needed a new system. At 3 a.m., he sent 2 emails. The first was to his most relentless corporate investigator, a woman named Myra Chen. The subject, Clearview Institute Regulatory Pressure Analysis, who benefits from the delay. The second was to his personal attorney, draft a promissory note, $112,000 plus interest, payable to Sophia Reyes immediately. Backdated to the first transfer. He printed the note, signed it, and slid it across the desk to Sophia. She stared at it, uncomprehending. "This makes it a loan," Leo said. "A legal debt I owe you. It doesn't erase what you did, but it means you didn't just light your future on fire for nothing." Sophia's chin trembled. "I didn't want a loan. I wanted her to be okay." "I know," Leo said. "That's why the loan is step 1. Step 2 is finding the treatment somewhere else." By dawn, Myra Chen had preliminary answers. Her email was a masterpiece of concise suspicion. The FDA inquiry was legitimate but oddly timed. It had been triggered by an anonymous complaint filed not by a competitor, but by a health policy advocacy group. A group that, Myra's quick dig revealed, received 70% of its annual funding from a coalition of major health insurance companies. The same coalition that included SureShield Health, Chloe's insurer. It wasn't a medical delay. It was a strategic one, a play to run out the clock on patients whose policies had experimental treatment exclusions. If the protocol wasn't active, it couldn't be administered. If it couldn't be administered, the insurance company never had to confront the cost of covering it. A new, colder fury settled in Leo's bones. This wasn't misfortune, it was a calculated financial maneuver with Chloe's life as a line item. He called SureShield. He navigated automated menus, recited policy numbers, and was finally connected to a case management supervisor. He explained the situation, the new findings. The supervisor, a man named David, spoke in a tone of practiced, sympathetic inertia. "We understand your frustration, Mr. Vance. Our coverage determinations are based on policy language and established medical guidelines. The suspension of the protocol only confirms its investigational status. It was suspended because your funded group complained about paperwork." Leo snapped, his control fraying. "We cannot comment on third-party actions," David replied smoothly. "The path forward is to seek treatment within your policy's covered benefits. We have a list of in-network neurologists we can provide." Leo ended the call. The path forward was a dead end paved with corporate speak. Sophia, who had been listening silently from the doorway, spoke up. "There's a doctor in Boston. I read all the forums. Her name is Dr. Anya Sharma. She's running an expanded access program for the same therapy. It's not a trial, it's compassionate use." Hope, sharp and painful, flickered in the room. Leo was on his laptop in seconds. Dr. Anya Sharma was a rock star in pediatric neuroimmunology, famous for battling bureaucracies to get drugs to dying children. Her program at Boston North Medical Center was real. The catch was monumental. Compassionate use meant the drug manufacturer provided the therapy for free, but the hospital costs, the monitoring, the ICU stays, those were patient responsibility. The estimated cost, $400,000, and because it was the same drug, SureShield's exclusions still applied. They had traded a suspended $300,000 treatment for an active $400,000 one. The mountain had just grown taller. Sophia let out a small, broken sound. The impossibility of it was a physical weight, but Leo's mind was already racing past the problem to a vicious, elegant solution. He couldn't fight the insurance company's policy, but he could attack its reputation. "We are going to Boston," he said. "We're taking Chloe to see Dr. Sharma, and we're going to let SureShield know we're coming." He didn't mean a phone call. He drafted a press release, not from Apex Partners, but from the Vance family. It was 3 paragraphs. It stated the facts: a child with a rare disease, an insurance denial for the only viable treatment, a caregiver forced into double shifts to pay for it, and the discovery of insurer-linked tactics to delay that treatment. It announced their pursuit of compassionate use in Boston. It ended with a question: when does investigational become a death sentence for a child? He sent it to his entire media contact list, to every healthcare journalist he knew, and tagged SureShield's official social media accounts. Then he booked a chartered medical flight to Boston for the next morning. The reaction was volcanic. Within the hour, his phone started ringing. First, a furious call from SureShield's corporate communications director demanding a retraction. Leo refused. Then, calls from news producers. By evening, a local news van was parked outside his gate. But the most important call came from a blocked number, a man's voice, calm and faintly apologetic. "Mr. Vance, my name is Robert Alden. I'm the Senior Vice President of Ethical Risk at SureShield. I've been asked to speak with you directly. Is there a place we can meet, away from the cameras?" Leo agreed to a meeting at a neutral business lounge, but he brought Myra Chen with him. Alden was a man in his 50s with the weary air of a veteran firefighter. He didn't bring lawyers, he brought a file. "Your daughter's case is tragic," Alden began, "and your release contains incendiary claims. But I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here because our internal review flagged something unusual about the denial." He opened the file. It showed the initial claim submission, the first denial, the appeal. Then he pointed to case reviewer's code. "This reviewer, Linda Garrity, handles high-cost experimental treatment appeals. She denied yours, standard procedure. But what's not standard is this." He slid another sheet forward. It was a performance bonus report. Linda Garrity had received a $20,000 cost containment achievement bonus the quarter she denied Chloe's claim. The bonus was directly tied to the sum of money her denials had saved the company. "This is a violation of our own ethical guidelines," Alden said quietly. "Bonuses cannot be tied to individual claim outcomes. It creates an undeniable conflict of interest." Leo felt the room tilt. The denial wasn't just policy, it was profit. A reviewer got a bonus to say no. "What does this mean for my daughter?" Leo asked, his voice deadly quiet. "It means the denial is ethically compromised. We can convene an emergency independent review panel. It will take 72 hours. If they overturn the denial, we will cover the Boston treatment under your plan's out-of-network benefits. You'll be responsible for 20%, $80,000. $80,000, not $400,000, a lifeline." But Myra Chen spoke for the first time, and the regulatory complaint that suspended the Clearview Protocol, the one filed by your funded advocacy group. Alden's face tightened. "That is a separate legal lobbying entity. We cannot control their actions." "But you can urge them to withdraw their complaint," Myra pressed. "You can make Clearview's protocol available again for other families. Or does your ethical review only extend to cases with cameras pointed at them?" Alden was silent for a long moment. "I will see what can be done." Leo left the meeting with a fragile, bitter hope. They had a chance, a 72-hour chance. He drove home to tell Sophia they might only need $80,000. He found her in Chloe's room, but Sophia wasn't reading a story. She was slumped in the rocking chair, her skin pale, her breathing shallow and rapid. One hand clutched her chest. The other was wrapped around her phone, which displayed a single text message. It was from an unknown number. The message contained just one line, but it changed everything. It read, "Stop the publicity, drop the appeal, or we report the undocumented caregiver to ICE. You have until the Boston flight takes off." The phone fell from Sophia's hand, clattering on the hardwood floor. She was hyperventilating, her eyes wide with a terror deeper than any exhaustion. "They know," she whispered. "They know everything." Leo knelt, gripping her trembling hands. "Sophia, look at me. Are you undocumented?" A tear tracked down her cheek. My student visa expired 2 years ago. My mother's medical bills. I couldn't afford the renewal. I'm sorry. The apology was automatic, a reflex of living in the shadows. The text was a masterstroke of corporate cruelty. It bypassed Leo's wealth, his influence, and struck at the heart of his home. They weren't threatening him, they were threatening the person who had saved his daughter, and the timer was set to the flight's departure 10 hours from now. Leo called Myra Chen back. I need a trace on a burner number and a crash course in immigration law. Now. While Myra worked, Leo made a decision. He would not cancel the flight. He would not drop the appeal. He walked to his safe, removed a file, and handed it to Sophia. It was a signed, notarized affidavit of financial support and an employment contract for a newly created position, Director of Pediatric Care Coordination at a nonprofit he founded on the spot. The salary was substantial. The cover letter was addressed to an immigration attorney named Elias Vance, his cousin. We're getting on that plane, Leo said, and you're going to Boston as my employee with a pending visa application. We're calling their bluff. But if they report me, I could be detained at the airport, Sophia breathed, the fear tangible. Then we don't go through public security, Leo said, a plan crystallizing. The chartered medical flight operated from a private terminal. No TSA, no customs checkpoints for domestic travel. It was a loophole of wealth he had never been more grateful for. He texted the burner number back. The appeal stands. The flight is leaving. Do your worst. The response was immediate. You were warned. 20 minutes later, Myra called, her voice tight. The text originated from a tower near SureShield's corporate headquarters. That's the easy part. The hard part is who sent it. I dug into Linda Garrity, the bonus-denying case manager. She's married to a man named Mark Garrity. He's a mid-level manager in SureShield's Special Investigations Unit. Their job is to find reasons to rescind policies or deny high-cost claims. He has access to external databases, including, I suspect, some less than legal ones used by private investigators. She paused. Leo, this isn't just a bonus. This is a system. The wife denies the claim for a bonus. The husband digs up dirt to pressure the claimant into dropping it. It's a 1-2 punch. The scheme was uglier and more personal than Leo could have imagined. It wasn't just a faceless corporation. It was a married couple using their positions to financially terrorize the sick. Before he could process this, his home phone rang. It was Robert Alden, the SVP of Ethical Risk. He sounded shaken. Mr. Vance, the independent review panel has been convened, but I've just been made aware of a complication. A complaint has been filed with our compliance office alleging you are coercing an undocumented employee to support your case. It includes photographs of Ms. Reyes leaving your home late at night. Leo's blood ran cold. They were fabricating a narrative of exploitation. You know that's a lie. I believe it is, Alden said quietly, but the complaint is formal. It suspends the review until it's investigated, and the source of the complaint is protected. It's Mark Garrity, Leo stated flatly. A long silence. Then, I cannot confirm that, but I will say this. You have made powerful enemies within my company who are not operating by any rulebook I recognize. Watch your back. The call ended. The 72-hour review was frozen. The threat had evolved from a text to a formal internal accusation. The Garritys were playing to win. Sophia looked at the clock. The flight leaves in 8 hours. What do we do? We go to Boston, Leo said, his voice steel, but we're not going just for treatment anymore. We're going for war. He placed 2 more calls. The first was to a former federal prosecutor he knew, now in private practice. He outlined the case: insurance fraud, wire fraud for the bonus scheme, and extortion via the immigration threat. The lawyer listened intently and said, "You need evidence, a whistleblower inside, or a recorded admission." The second call was to Robert Alden. Leo made an offer. You want a clean house? Help me. Wear a wire. Get Mark Garrity to admit what he and his wife are doing. In exchange, I guarantee you and your ethics department emerge as heroes, not casualties. Alden was silent for a full minute. Meet me at the Four Seasons Lounge in 30 minutes. Come alone. Leo didn't go alone. He brought a miniature recorder provided by his lawyer and Myra Chen, who waited in a car outside. Alden was already there, nursing a scotch. He looked 10 years older. "Mark Garrity is a cancer," Alden said without preamble. "He's done this before. A leukemia patient last year, a car accident victim the year before. We suspected, but we could never prove it. The system is designed to protect itself." He took the recorder. "I'll get you your confession, but you have to promise me one thing. This doesn't stop with him. It has to go all the way up to the executives who turned a blind eye for the sake of the stock price." Leo agreed. They devised a script. Alden would call Garrity, saying he was nervous about the Vance case and the media attention. He'd suggest they needed leverage to make Leo back down and ask Garrity if his usual contact for personal details could help. They needed Garrity to admit to the pattern on tape. Back at the house, with 4 hours until the flight, they listened on a live feed. Alden's call was a masterpiece of corporate manipulation. He played the worried bureaucrat perfectly, and Mark Garrity, arrogant and assured, took the bait. "You're worrying too much, Bob," Garrity's voice crackled through the speaker. "The migrant angle always works. They get scared, they drop the appeal. We've done it before. My wife Denny's, I dig, they fold. It's just business. The bonus is nice, but the real win is keeping these million-dollar claims off the books." There it was, a clear, recorded admission of a conspiracy to commit fraud and extortion. Leo had his weapon. He immediately forwarded the recording to his lawyer and to every major news outlet that had contacted him earlier with a single line: "This is how your health insurance company really works." The detonation was instantaneous. The story was no longer about one family. It was about a systemic criminal enterprise within a major insurer. News desks scrambled. The Boston flight was now also a press conference. As they loaded Chloe's medical equipment into the private ambulance to the airfield, Sophia received another text from the burner number. It was a single word: "Congratulations," followed by a second message: "But you forgot one thing. My wife's bonus denial is backed by a doctor on our payroll, Dr. Evan Pritchard. He reviews all experimental cases for us, for a fee. He's the one who wrote the medical opinion that sealed your denial, and he's on staff at Boston North Medical Center. He's waiting for you." The world seemed to slow down. The enemy wasn't just at the insurance company. They had a mole inside the very hospital that held Chloe's last hope. A doctor who could sabotage the compassionate use application from the inside. Leo looked at Sophia, then at Chloe, sleeping fitfully in her car seat. The plane's engines were warming up. They had the confession. They had the media, but they were flying directly into the lair of the man who had medically condemned his daughter. He took a deep breath of the cold night air. The battle in the boardroom was over. The war in the hospital was about to begin. The private jet cut through the night, a capsule of desperate hope heading toward a trap. Leo spent the flight not panicking, but planning. He had Myra Chen dig into Dr. Evan Pritchard with a vengeance. What she found was a pattern of quiet corruption. Pritchard was a respected name in pediatric neurology, but over the past 5 years, his published reviews of new treatments had taken a consistently negative turn. Myra cross-referenced his peer reviews with insurance filings. In 17 of 19 cases where Pritchard declared a therapy too experimental, the company denying coverage was SureShield. His consulting fees from a third-party medical review firm totaled over $600,000. That firm's only client was SureShield. They had the evidence, but they needed to use it surgically. Leo's goal wasn't just to expose Pritchard, it was to get Chloe past him and into Dr. Sharma's care. They landed in Boston as the sun was rising. An ambulance was waiting, and they went straight to Boston North Medical Center. The media scrum was already forming at the main entrance, but they were ushered in through a private bay for critical transfers. Chloe was admitted directly to the pediatric intensive care unit for evaluation. Leo and Sophia were shown to a family consultation room, and within 20 minutes, the door opened. 2 men entered. The first was Dr. Anya Sharma, smaller and more intense than her photos, with kind eyes that missed nothing. The second was Dr. Evan Pritchard, tall, with silver hair and a practiced paternal smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Vance, Ms. Reyes," Dr. Sharma began, "we've reviewed the records from Clearview. Chloe's case is urgent. My team is prepared to move forward with the compassionate use protocol, pending final approval from our ethics board and, of course, a confirmation of the financial guarantee." Pritchard spoke smoothly, interlacing his fingers. "A tragic situation. We all want the best for the child, but Dr. Sharma's protocol uses the same novel drug delivery system as Clearview. The FDA's concerns about manufacturing standards are therefore still relevant. Our ethics board must be meticulous. We cannot risk patient safety on a therapy with unresolved questions." It was the same argument, dressed in a white coat. Leo looked at Pritchard, then at Dr. Sharma. "Doctor, may I speak with you alone for one moment? It's about a matter of medical ethics." Pritchard's smile tightened. "Anything concerning this case should be discussed with both of us present." "I'm afraid it concerns only Dr. Sharma," Leo said, his voice calm. He held Pritchard's gaze until the older man finally sniffed and left the room. When the door shut, Leo turned to Dr. Sharma. "How much do you know about Dr. Pritchard's financial relationship with SureShield Health?" Dr. Sharma's expression became unreadable. "I am aware he does some external review work." Leo handed her his tablet. On it was a summary Myra had prepared. The fee payments, the correlation between his negative reviews and SureShield denials, and the recording of Mark Garrity mentioning a doctor on our payroll. Dr. Sharma scrolled in silence. Her face paled. When she looked up, her eyes were blazing. "He sat on the ethics board that reviewed my protocol application last month," he argued for delaying it. "He's not here to protect patients," Sophia said softly from her chair. "He's here to protect an insurance company's bottom line. My daughter is just a line item to them." Dr. Sharma stood up. "Wait here." She was gone for 30 minutes. When she returned, she was accompanied by a hospital administrator and a security guard. "Dr. Pritchard has been escorted from the hospital and suspended pending a full investigation," she said, her voice clipped. "The ethics board has reconvened without him. I've presented Chloe's case. Approval has been granted. We begin the first infusion today." The relief was so profound it was physical. Sophia sagged against Leo, sobbing quietly, but Leo knew one battle remained: the money. As if on cue, his phone rang. It was Robert Alden. "The independent review panel has unfrozen your case," Alden said. "The evidence against the Garrities was compelling. The panel overturned the denial unanimously. SureShield will cover the treatment at Boston North as an in-network benefit. Your copay will be $2,000. Leo closed his eyes. $2,000, not $80,000, not $400,000, $2,000. Alden continued. "Mark and Linda Garrity were arrested this morning by the FBI. The recording was the key. Pritchard is next. And Mr. Vance, the board has asked me to extend an offer. We are establishing a truly independent patient advocacy office with full transparency. They'd like you to consult on its design." Leo almost laughed. The system that had tried to crush him was now asking for his help to fix itself. He told Alden he'd consider it. The first infusion began that afternoon. Leo and Sophia watched through the glass as the clear fluid dripped into Chloe's IV. There was no miracle, not that day, but there was a fragile, precious chance. In the weeks that followed, as Chloe remained stable in the hospital, Leo worked. He used the promised consulting fee from SureShield to establish Chloe's Bridge, a nonprofit that covered living expenses for families traveling for pediatric compassionate care. The director was Sophia Reyes, her immigration papers now fast-tracked and approved. The final surprise came from an unexpected quarter. A sealed envelope arrived at Leo's temporary Boston apartment. Inside was a cashier's check for $112,000. The note attached was from Robert Alden. "This is the sum Ms. Reyes paid, recovered from the Garrities' assets as restitution. It doesn't repay the sacrifice, but it returns what was taken." Leo handed the check to Sophia. She stared at it, then at him. "This is yours," she said. "It was for Chloe." And you gave it, Leo replied. Now it's for you, for your degree, for your future, for whatever comes after this. Sophia didn't argue. She simply folded the check, placed it in her pocket, and rested her head on his shoulder as they watched Chloe sleep. The war was over. The quiet, difficult work of healing was just beginning. A year later, Chloe Vance took her first unaided steps in the physical therapy room of Boston North. The video, shaky and raw, showed a little girl with a determined frown wobbling for 3 seconds before collapsing into Sophia's arms with a gummy laugh. It wasn't a cure. It was a milestone, the kind of progress that doesn't make headlines but rewrites a family's future. Leo sold his venture firm. He didn't retire, he pivoted. He now runs a private equity fund that exclusively invests in companies developing affordable, accessible medical technologies. The first investment was in a startup creating a more stable, cheaper version of the very drug that saved his daughter. He calls it closing the loop. Sophia Reyes graduated with her master in nursing. She runs Chloe's Bridge full-time, which has now helped over 200 families navigate the labyrinth of insurance denials and compassionate use. She also teaches a course on patient advocacy at a local college. Her lecture on the first day is always the same: the bill is not the diagnosis. The diagnosis is the system. The Garrittys pleaded guilty to multiple counts of wire fraud and conspiracy. They were sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Dr. Evan Pritchard lost his medical license and is currently facing criminal charges for fraud. SureShield Health paid a record $90 million fine and, under a federal monitor, completely overhauled its claims process. The bonus system for denials was abolished. Robert Alden now runs the Independent Patient Advocacy Office, and the first policy he changed was the blanket exclusion for experimental treatments. But the numbers remain staggering. 9.3 million Americans still work multiple jobs. Over 45% of direct care workers live in poverty. Insurers still deny, on average, 17% of all claims. The machinery that almost crushed Chloe and Sophia is vast and still turning. Which leaves us with a single, lingering question, one that goes beyond this story. In a system built on profit and denial, where does real care live? Is it in the policy, or is it in the person? Is it in the boardroom, or is it in the quiet, desperate love of a caregiver working a double shift at 3 a.m.? The answer, perhaps, is that care is the gap between what the system provides and what we are willing to do for each other. It's the space Sophia filled. It's the debt Leo refused to ignore. It's the fight they chose to have. We often misunderstand the people in our lives until a crisis forces the truth into the light. We see the surface, the uniform, the title, the silence, and we write the story in our heads. But the real story is almost always happening in the shadows, in the sacrifices made when no one is watching. So look around you. Who in your life is carrying a weight you can't see? What story are you missing? If this story moved you, subscribe, because these are the narratives that remind us of our shared humanity and the incredible power we have to change a life when we choose to see beyond the surface. Thanks for watching.